Everyone trying to think like Ayanokoji is copying the wrong thing. They're studying the silence, the flat expression, the slow blink, and completely missing the actual mechanism underneath all of it. Here's what almost nobody says out loud. The calm you're trying to replicate was not a choice he made. It was engineered into him through conditions that would break most people before they hit their teens. And the character himself, right now in the story, is actively trying to move past what that process created. So if you've been treating him like a blueprint, you've been building toward the wrong destination. The real thing worth extracting, the part that's actually trainable, actually useful, and actually grounded in cognitive science, is something much more specific than a personality type. And once you see it clearly, you won't want to copy him anyway. You'll want to build your own version of it. Most people who want to think like Ayanokoji are already doing it wrong. Most people who want to think like Ayanokoji are already doing it wrong. And the reason why is something almost nobody in this space talks about. And I'm going to get to it, but not yet. Here's what you actually clicked on. A real breakdown of how Ayanokoji's mind works, where that mind came from, and the specific mental habit loop you can actually build in real life. Not be stoic, not be emotionless. Something way more specific than that, and honestly, way more useful. Because here's the thing. What Classroom of the Elite actually gives us is something more interesting than a cold genius. A person who has had emotional capacity suppressed and conditioned away, who is now, slowly and reluctantly, experiencing the friction of actual human connection. That's a completely different character than the one most videos describe, and understanding that difference is what separates the people who actually develop sharper thinking from the ones who just start talking slower and acting detached. So we're going to go through 3 things that genuinely matter. The second one is where the real cognitive science lives. And the last one, the one almost nobody realizes, is the one that reframes everything else. Stay with me. Let's start with what most people skip over entirely, where his mind actually came from. The White Room is a secretive, government-adjacent facility run by Ayanokoji's father, a man who treats child development as an engineering problem. The program's premise is brutal. Isolate children from birth, deny them emotional attachment, and subject them to relentless cognitive and physical training across every discipline imaginable. The goal is to produce the perfect human being, optimal in intellect, combat, social manipulation, and decision-making. Ayanokoji survived where others broke down entirely. He emerged from the White Room at the top, the singular success case of the program. So when you watch him read a room in seconds, when you see him stay completely flat while everyone around him is panicking, that's not a personality trait. He was raised in an environment stripped of emotional warmth, personal choice, or freedom, where every part of the day was engineered for physical dominance, intellectual supremacy, and emotional suppression. The calm you're trying to copy was manufactured under conditions most people will never experience. And here's what makes this actually interesting for you. He escaped that place specifically to get away from what it made him. His journey at the advanced nurturing high school is partly about rejecting or redefining this upbringing, seeking a life where he can choose his own path. So the character you want to think like is actively trying to undo the very thing you're trying to build. That's not a reason to stop watching. That's the most important piece of context in this whole video. Because it means the goal was never to become him. It was always to extract the specific skill underneath, the persona, and leave the trauma out of it. Here's what that skill actually is. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman described 2 distinct modes of cognitive processing in his book, Thinking, Fast and Slow. System 1 is fast, automatic, and intuitive, operating with little to no effort. It allows us to make quick decisions and judgments based on patterns and experiences. In contrast, System 2 is slow, deliberate, and conscious, requiring intentional effort. It's used for complex problem-solving and analytical tasks where more thought and consideration are necessary. Now here's the brutal part. Kahneman estimates that around 96% of our thinking runs through System 1, 4% through System 2. We make around 35,000 decisions every day. And if everyone required System 2, we would be cognitively exhausted by breakfast. So by default, almost every reaction you have, every snap judgment, every emotional flare, Every time you say something you regret 2 seconds later. That's System 1 running the show completely unchecked. System 1 is guided mainly by intuition rather than deliberation. It gives fast answers to very simple questions, and those answers are sometimes wrong, mainly because of unconscious bias or because they rely on heuristics and shortcuts. What Ayanokoji does, and what the White Room essentially force-trained into him, is run almost everything through System 2 first. He doesn't react. He observes, holds the reaction, and then processes. The poker face that everyone tries to imitate is not the skill. It's just the visible symptom of that deeper habit. The mask is the byproduct. The delay is the actual mechanism. And this is where it gets really practical, so pay attention here. You don't need trauma to build this. You need a habit loop. And the loop has 4 steps. Observe, delay, analyze, then act. Once, decisively. That's it. That's the whole thing. Everything else about him, the strategy, the social reading, the long game, flows from that one loop running consistently. Think about the last time you sent a text in anger, or said something in a meeting you immediately wanted to walk back, or made a decision because it felt right in the moment, and it wasn't. That was System 1 with no delay, no analysis, just reaction. Ayanokoji, in almost every arc, inserts a pause between stimulus and response. He doesn't close on a plan until the variance is gone, until the information is as complete as it can be and the odds are no longer close. That's not genius. That's a trainable habit. Now here's the part I said I'd get back to. The thing almost nobody realizes. In the light novels, there's a passage where he reflects, "No emotions in me right now." At least there shouldn't be anything like that mixed in there, but that "but" is doing enormous work. He doesn't fully know how to change what the White Room made him. The White Room trained him to view people instrumentally, and no amount of high school friendship fully overrides that conditioning. He hates the mentality his upbringing gave him, and is still figuring out what to do with it. That's the most human detail in the whole story, and it's the one that gets skipped every single time someone makes a Become Ayanokoji video. The character himself is not trying to be what you're trying to become. He's trying to figure out how to be something more than that. So what does that mean for you? It means the endpoint here is not a personality. By appearing average, Ayanokoji creates a shield, but the real mechanism is that he treats his own identity as something to consciously engineer, not just manage reactively. You can do the same thing without the baggage. You can run the loop, observe, delay, analyze, act, and still stay fully human while doing it. You can build the analytical sharpness without suppressing the parts of yourself that actually make you good at relationships, at reading rooms, at knowing when to put the calculation down and just be present. That's the version worth building. 2 modes like 2 books fans always pair with him. The Machiavellian results, first operating logic for when the stakes are real and the situation demands precision, and the social calibration side, the ability to read what someone actually needs versus what they're saying for everything else. Neither one alone is the skill. The skill is knowing which mode to run and when. If this kind of breakdown is what you're looking for, the actual mechanics behind characters like this, not just surface-level takes, drop a comment with the word System 2, and I'll know exactly what kind of content to keep making. And if you've got a friend who's obsessed with Classroom of the Elite, send them this. They'll either love you for it or start an argument, and either way it's a good conversation. The 4-step loop is what you came here for. Observe, delay the reaction, run the slow analysis, then act, once, and with full commitment. That's the whole framework. That's what makes his decisions look like they're coming from a different level. And the reason it works is because it is genuinely a different level. Not a different person, just a different process. You already have the hardware. You just need to change which system you let drive. If you want to go deeper on the psychology side of this, the next video on the channel covers how to actually train your observation skills from the ground up. The same way he reads people before they've said anything meaningful. It's right there. Watch it next.